and welcome to this special Easter Day message. And it's a special day for me because I've managed to corral all three of us into one space together. We're being kidnapped and taken to a secret location. And this is just for Easter Day and for that marvellous good news message. Now, earlier today, we will have done our sunrise services. Deacon Douw, you would have officiated over an Easter service or two this morning. Rev'd James, the same.
We started up at 6 o'clock at Torrey Battery for a sunrise prayers.
Fantastic. Yes, indeed. So we've heard already the Easter story, but perhaps in officiating and doing other roles in a service, we haven't had that time to perhaps reflect on it ourselves, that we might. So I thought this would be a really good opportunity while we're in this space together for us to just quieten the mind, go back to that description of that time and just go through it again and just see what the message is in there for us and for anyone watching. So I'm going to read out of Matthew's Gospel. It's a Matthew lectionary year. I've just lost my glasses. I've no idea what I did with... Oh, there they are. Excellent. I've got them here. Never mind. And I'm going to read Matthew chapter 28, which is the very last chapter of Matthew's Gospel. And this is the account from that Gospel. After the Sabbath, as the first day of the week was dawning, Mary Magdalene and the other Mary went to see the tomb. And suddenly there was a great earthquake, for an angel of the Lord, descending from heaven, came and rolled back the stone and sat on it. His appearance was like lightning, and his clothing white as snow. For fear of him the guards shook and became like dead men. But the angel said to the woman, "Do not be afraid. I know that you are looking for Jesus who was crucified. He is not here, for he has been raised as he said. Come, see the place where he lay. Then go quickly and tell his disciples. He has been raised from the dead, and indeed he is going ahead of you to Galilee. There you will see him. This is my message for you." So they left the tomb quickly with fear and great joy, and ran to tell his disciples. Suddenly Jesus met them and said, "Greetings," and they came to him, took hold of his feet and worshipped him. Then Jesus said to them, "Do not be afraid. Go and tell my brothers to go to Galilee. There they will see me." While they were going, some of the guard went into the city and told the chief priests everything that had happened. After the priests had assembled with the elders, they devised a plan to give a large sum of money to the soldiers, telling them, "You must say, 'His disciples came by night and stole him away while we were asleep.' If this comes to the governor's ears, we will satisfy him and keep you out of trouble." So they took the money and did as they were directed, and this story is still told among the Jews to this day. Now the 11 disciples went to Galilee, to the mountain to which Jesus had directed them. When they saw him, they worshipped him, but some doubted, and Jesus came and said to them, "All authority in heaven and on earth has been given to me. Go therefore and make disciples of all nations, baptizing them in the name of the Father and of the Son and of the Holy Spirit, and teaching them to obey everything that I have commanded you. And remember, I am with you always to the end of the age." So that's Matthew's account of that special day, possibly the most important day in human history.
True.
How do we think the people there in that scene, what did it mean to them? What did they see on that day?
I think it caused great confusion for them, because even though Jesus was alluding to this happening and even spoke openly about it in some cases, I don't think that's what they understood. I don't think that's what they had in mind for the coming of God's kingdom. They had something totally different in mind from their Messiah, from their Saviour. and for him then to go to the grave, and then to come out, and all of a sudden he's there. It's beyond words, it's beyond comprehension, it's beyond any lived experience. And I don't think they understood exactly what was going on. I think time would generate a better understanding. But if you go to embalm a body, and you arrive there and the body's gone, and you find yourself weeping sorrowfully, and then somebody asks you, why are you crying? And you don't even recognize this person until he speaks your name, you're gonna doubt yourself. Did I really see him die? Did they really put him in the grave? Was he really dead? How did this happen? How did this come about? I think confusion would be the immediate reaction.
And that phrase on the mountaintop that they worshipped but some doubted is telling, isn't it?
Yes.
And I think the Greek underlying that suggests not that some worshipped and some doubted, but more that they worshipped and they doubted.
Yes.
In John's Gospel we have Thomas, who was the doubting one, but I think the implication here is that they worshipped and they doubted, and we have to ask ourselves, well, what are they doubting? I don't think they were doubting that this was Jesus with them, because they were already worshipping. I think the doubt was, well, what does this mean for us? And that leads into the Great Commission from Jesus, putting their doubt to rest, that don't doubt anymore. This is what you need to do. You need to go and tell people, and I am with you.
So you think that Jesus is saying this message to them to give them a direction, because they're confused. They're not. I mean, what comes next after that? Jesus comes back, but are they thinking there's going to be more years of ministry, wandering around the villages, healing people, or whatever, or what happens? And this is very much a sending out, isn't it? That Jesus is saying, it's not me going out to the world; it's you now.
Yes.
And then that sort of plays into the great mystery of Matthew's Gospel. That Matthew goes to great lengths to prove to us that it was Jesus, with the seal stone and the soldiers and all the rest of it. Matthew was really wanting to make the point that this was Jesus risen, not stolen away by the disciples. But the mystery at the end is, well, what happened to him after that?
Right.
He sent the disciples out, but was Jesus still on that mountaintop?
Yes.
And so that perhaps brings us on to thinking, well, where does that leave us? Is Jesus still on that mountaintop?
Yes. That's an interesting thing, isn't it? Because Matthew doesn't talk about ascension or anything like that. The disciples leave Jesus, and then we see Jesus no more, and we only know the stories after that of the disciples.
Which is then that great internalization of this story, that we're taken from that physical mountaintop and the physicality of worshipping Jesus there, and invited to internalize this for ourselves, that we travel with the disciples, we retain Jesus with us until the end of the age, because that particular account doesn't tell us what happens.
Yes, yeah.
So, so many Christians build a life at the foot of the cross, because they're drawn to the cross, they give their lives to Jesus, and there they remain. They don't move beyond the cross into life as Jesus sends us. And it's also worth noting that apart from just sending us to baptize and to heal, he sends us to teach them to obey the things that he's taught us.
Yes. So it's interesting that you use that term, us.
Yeah.
Jesus sends the disciples, but we are the modern disciples. So what do we think is the meaning in this for us today, for us and our churches and our circuit today?
I think it's that word, go.
Go, yeah.
Yes.
Go.
Well, it's very missional, isn't it?
Yes. Yeah. Don't stay here up on the mountaintop breathing the rarefied holy air. Go.
Right. Yes. So it's a call to action.
Yes. Yes. Yes, absolutely. We need to come together to worship, to glorify, to be equipped, but then to disperse. Salt in too much concentrated quantity in one place ruins a dish, but salt mixed out throughout the whole dish enhances the flavor and brings things together and makes it a beautiful dish. But if you just have one big lump of salt in one area, not so good. And the same goes with Christians as well. We do well when we're together, but we need to disperse. We need to bring the good news throughout the community.
Right. So you're saying we shouldn't just be a little monastic community, or we shouldn't be in our churches, just gathering together on a Sunday, talking to one another, singing hymns with one another, or whatever. Actually, our mission is out there, outside those walls, out in the towns.
We were saved from death and sin, but we were saved for a purpose. We were saved for the works that God has prepared for us. So when he says go, he sends us into that field that's been ploughed and prepared, and for us to go and work. And I think it's a huge privilege. I think we often miss that. It's not an onerous task. It's not a burden. It is such a privilege. It's such an honor to labour in his vineyard.
Mm-hmm. James, you getting excited about going into the Aberdeen Church and saying, "Go, go"?
I think they've gone. Yes, it makes us. Well, we do gather, don't we? And we gather to be equipped. We gather to build each other up. We gather to learn from each other. We gather to see Christ's light in each other. But I think we also need to remember that when we go, we're not taking Christ to the world. That Christ is already in the world. Mm-hmm. We are going to witness to Christ who's already there. It's not our job to go and take Christ to these poor ignorant people who don't know anything about God. We're going to learn from the people we meet more about what Christ looks like, because Christ is there before us.
So some of this missional direction is about actually our growth and our learning, possibly even more than the other direction.
Absolutely, the mission has that go, because no mission happens if we stay where we are. But most of the direction of mission flows in the opposite direction to the one that we are accustomed to thinking of it. And if we aren't open to that, then we're wasting our time. That if we're not ready to meet Christ on the road, and to be able to witness to people who may not realise that how they are being Christ for us,
yes.
then we risk falling into pride and thinking that we are saving the world, rather than recognising that Christ has already saved the world.
So this message, this chapter, these words on this page that are 2,000 years old, they're still as relevant today as ever for us, for our congregations, for Christianity, for the world.
Yes, and I think those words take us right into this message, because going back to the start of the reading, where the earthquake happens, the angel rolls the stone away. Christ doesn't walk out of the tomb then. Christ has already left the tomb by that point.
Yes.
And so those words, as Matthew wrote them, remind us that Christ goes before us.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So we've talked about what it meant for the people 2,000 years ago who were there at the time, the eyewitnesses and so forth, and we've talked about what it might mean for our churches and our congregations, but we're people too. So what is the individual message coming out this Easter for each of us? Where does it direct our thoughts and our attention, and what's the deep meaning for us? Because we've heard this story before, obviously, quite a few times, but each time something new comes up. So what is that for us this Easter?
I think for me this Easter specifically, what struck me was Mary not recognizing Jesus.
Mm-hmm.
And I believe firmly that there are so many instances, even in our lives as ministers, where we encounter Jesus without recognizing him. And there is the saying that unless we recognize Jesus in the beggar at the door, we're not going to find him in the chalice either. And it's important to look for Jesus in those that he chooses to surround us with. And every person that we meet is a ministry opportunity. It's an opportunity to love and to serve. And we cannot afford to pass up those opportunities.
I think what strikes me this year is that it's very easy to focus just on Matthew chapter 28 without remembering all that has gone before it.
There's 27 chapters before that.
Yes, and that although "go" is the most important word there, that comes in the context of those who have already travelled with Christ, and that as we look to God's future and focus on God's future, there's also the realization there that we've arrived to that future from God's past, and that the disciples had travelled to that point with Jesus. There are things they'd understood, there are things they'd not understood at that point, but that there was a past there as well. And that the people Jesus sent were the people with that past, the people who he'd struggled alongside with, the people who'd fallen asleep when he was in the Garden of Gethsemane, the people in whom he'd laid his hopes and in whom he'd been disappointed. And so this isn't a moment by itself, this resurrection moment. It's a moment that comes with its past, and that our eyes shouldn't be so firmly fixed on God's future that we forget how we've come to where we are, and we need to minister out from and travel from the places we find ourselves.
And honour God for the work that he's done in our lives.
Yes.
And in the lives of those who travel with us.
Absolutely.
Yes. And interesting that you say all these people that he has there who, with all their failings, and when it's been very apparent in the last few chapters leading up to this, just that they're not, they haven't been up to many of the tasks that have been set before them, and yet Jesus feels that even they are worth commissioning, that these are the ones that will take that message to the world. So that I guess that's really what I'm thinking this Easter is just about the hope that lies before us, the resurrection, not just of Jesus' embodiment, but of hope. Because we've had these years of COVID, and we've had a long struggle getting out of it, and we've come to the realization that the pandemic is always with us. We're in a time of warfare in Europe that's like nothing we've really seen since perhaps the Second World War. We're in a situation all around the globe where there are these conflicts, where there's a lot of polarization of communities, and it's just easy in that circumstance for us to lose that sense that God is with us, that sense that of hope. And so that message that not only is Christ with us, but Christ has gone ahead. Christ has foreseen this. Christ knows the things that we're facing, and Christ sees a way through for us. And our job is simply to go where he has called us to be.
Yes, and this is also a journey of sanctification, a journey of following Christ and being made holy in the journey. If we're looking for perfection, we're not going to find it in the church. If you look at the church, many people say we're full of hypocrites, and that's true. The gym is full of fat people. They're people on a journey towards fitness. We're on a journey towards holiness. We haven't attained perfection, not by a long shot, and we won't before Jesus comes. And it's this journey towards sanctification, journey towards holiness, as the Holy Spirit works in us as we follow Christ. I think it's important to understand that, as we work with the people that God has entrusted to our care, they're not perfect, as we are not perfect, and that we need to allow for that. And that is where God's love comes in. That is where you see the cracks, you see the dirt, but you find God in that person, and that makes him lovable.
And even though we're on a journey, it's not all about the destination. Part of our purpose is to is to share that journey with others.
Yes.
Is to enjoy that journey, have joy from the all the little things that happen every day, and to be on that path, knowing where it leads as well.
Yeah.
There's great joy in that, isn't there?
Yeah, and again, Matthew's Gospel with that open ending emphasises that we don't see Jesus at the end of his journey. We're left in process, at the end there.
Indeed, I think that's a great time for us to have an open ending to this Easter message, isn't it? We're on a journey. It's a journey that we share, a journey of companionship, a journey where we're travelling to a known destination, a journey which we can, no matter where we are in our lives and everything, we can find the joy of living each day of this journey and of sharing this day together with each other and with the living Christ, and a journey of great joy. So I hope you've got an egg or two ready to munch into this evening with your cup of tea or what have you. I hope that if you're sharing it with family and friends, that you're having a wonderful day and a happy Easter from the north of Scotland. Bye.
Bye.
How great the chasm that lay between us, how high the mountain I could not climb. In desperation I turned to heaven and spoke your name into the night. And through the darkness, your loving kindness tore through the shadows of my soul. The work is finished, the end is written. Jesus Christ, my living hope. Hallelujah, praise the one who set me free. Hallelujah, that has lost its grip on me. You have broken every chain. There's salvation in your name, Jesus Christ, my living hope. Hallelujah, praise the one who set me free. Hallelujah, that has lost its grip on me. You have broken every chain. There's salvation shall pierce the night, and I will rise among the saints, my gaze transfixed on Jesus' face. Come on, church, why don't we worship together here in this place? And on the third